controversial subjects with the facts can be tense, but we are a sub-science here to make things make sense.
Glug glug.
What I love how we just like it's become a thing to just like make a noise or a related thing to the topic. We were talking about something just a minute ago about wine at the beginning.
Yeah.
Oh, just whether or not we like it.
We went through such a phase. We were annoying for a while.
I think that I definitely don't know anything about wine. Like I still feel insecure if I'm in a restaurant and I choose to have a wine glass and they make me like test it. Like I feel highly insecure in those moments because I'm obviously playing a character right now. I'm like pretending fully like I gotta smell it and then I gotta take a little sip and then I'm gonna go, yeah, great, thank you. Yeah, I love this one. Well, like, could you ever be like, I'd be like, no, I'll just have one glass of bad wine I don't like and then move on and pick a different one next time.
I think that people who take that seriously are more embarrassing than you. You know what I mean? Like, definitely it's, in my opinion, cooler to be like, oh my God, I don't really know what I'm doing. And yeah, good enough than to be like, essentially what we're going to talk about today, like sommeliers.
Yeah.
It's not going to go over well for me. First date, if they're taking it seriously.
Unless it's like, unless it's in an environment where that's expected and not rude. Like I could be with somebody who...
Wait, what do you mean rude?
Well, so to me, it feels rude to be like, oh, this is gross. Like,
I'm not talking about even saying it's gross. I'm talking about even taking the act of that seriously.
Oh, yeah.
Like you were saying, like you ended with the gross thing, but even just the idea of like when someone comes and is like, want to try it, always you and I are like, oh my God, lol, like as if, like, because that to me, it's like, I can't even imagine taking it seriously.
Yeah, but some people actually do it as a hobby or a profession.
Yeah.
And I'm just trying to say, like, for anyone out there who does, I can appreciate it. I can appreciate that you're interested in it. And there are certain settings, certain restaurants or wine bars where it's like the people serving you are also interested in that and will not be offended if you take it seriously. And if you're kind of like, this is not good and not what I want. So I'd rather have something else. But you know what I mean?
I want to do that now. You just convinced me. Well, no, because I'm like,
convinced.
no, because I'm like, wait a second. So when people come to me and they say, do you want like wine? Or like if I'm like, oh, I want a glass of wine, I don't do red wine because I get gout. Spoiler alert for anyone who hasn't heard the gout episode. Yeah, I'm disgusting. So I don't get red wine, but then I do like wine that tastes like dirt.
like funky?
Yeah, like
dirt or like
I kind of
or like detergent.
I don't like drinking wine like the way that people like go to a cottage and have a wine. I'm like, no, I'd way rather have a cocktail or like even a beer. But like, so if I'm drinking wine, like I want it to like shock me. I want to be like, ooh, what the F?
Right.
And I kind of want to sip it and I kind of want to like not like it. No, I want to like what? So sometimes describing that to people, it's like, they'll be like, so what do you like?
Yeah.
And I'll be like, things that taste like dirt, funky. Like kind of, and I start describing bad things and they're always like,
no,
what?
But I think someone who knows a lot about wine would be like, okay, earthy and okay.
Earthy.
And I think this is like the genre of orange wine for us. Maybe just because we've grown up around red and white, it's like seems more basic or just more familiar. But orange also can be boring to me, but some of them every now and then it's almost like there's literally tang in them.
What did my dad say? He's like, oh yeah,
tar.
Cool, it tastes like tar.
And he was like, no, but it's good, but it tastes like tar.
But we are pretending we don't care, but we for a year were annoying about orange wine.
Yeah, I still think it's cool.
So much money on
expensive.
It.
Yeah,
like we'd be like, and I think our friends, we'd be like, this is a gorgeous one from Austria, from like a small church in Austria. And I do think when people took a sip, they were like, this tastes like vomit.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like
it's like Birdie Bot's vomit.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, it is, I can only imagine how annoying that was to people. Us going like, this is gorgeous. And it's actually from like, I don't even know, like random, like weird countries. Yes. Not weird. I'm sorry.
I mean, I gotta say though, an unfiltered is gonna win me over. Like when there's chunks in it, I'm into it.
Yeah, I know, and that's usually more expensive and tastes objectively gross. Like so I'm just like, okay. But now I don't think we drink orange wine. Like it's not our personality anymore.
No, I know, but I would like still have some. But do we want to talk about some science? Like, do you want to go first? Or I've got lots of stuff on wine tasting and weather.
The first thing I was gonna say is talk about like if a sommelier were to assess a wine, how they do it.
Oh, okay,
in order.
that's interesting.
Okay. So you sit down, and sadly, you're on a Tinder date with someone who is
Is
a
a
sommelier.
sommelier.
Which,
And you
oh
decide
my God.
against your better judgment to stay.
I remember in university when we went to that one gay dinner, and there was like a conversation about chili and wine for like half an hour, like the country of chili.
What gay dinner?
Like, I think you don't remember. I don't even bother because I know you have a bad memory. But I truly, it was like the first time I'd been around like bougie gay men, and they were talking about Chilean wine.
And you were like,
and I was like, how are we still, like, how has no one moved on to Lady Gaga? Like, it was like, it was hard. And then they'd look at me, I'd be like, never ever thought about this, never been to Chile, neither have you. Anyways, those people.
Okay.
So the first thing you do is you look at it, obviously.
Okay.
But like never taste it, never smell it.
okay.
And you're supposed to hold it up to a white wall, like a sommelier doing a test.
Okay.
So there's a super famous test that I actually think is cool, the Master Sommelier's Diploma Exam, which very few people can pass.
Oh, okay.
And they have to be given wine and
And it's an
answer
objective test.
an objective test.
Okay.
Yeah, because I think we're going to probably rip on wine tasting a bit from the science perspective. But I do think it's pretty cool that there's an objective test and some people are actually able to figure out specific regions where wine's from just from this. So by looking at it, preferably on a white background, and when you're doing this sommelier test, you get a white background.
Okay.
There's like anthocyanin, which is the chemical, the pigment that makes a red wine red, and anthocyanin. And over time it fades. So if a red wine is kind of not that dark anymore, then there's a chance that it's older.
In a bad way? Or
No, like
in a
people
good way, like
aged
an
wine.
aged
Yeah,
wine.
yeah.
Okay,
Like it's,
I
or
see.
the
It
sommelier is
helps
gonna have to
you know-
answer a question,
I
and
see.
it's like, okay, maybe it's older.
Okay.
And then warmer climate wines are usually darker and harder to see through, whereas colder climate wines are usually more like translucent.
When we're comparing red wines here.
Yeah.
Or okay.
No, I think it's like even white wines.
Okay.
Then you swirl it, and that's the Gibbs Marangoni effect, which is like, you know, when people like look at the way that the
like
drops fall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's about them, like how they stick to it, or like
So
just the
separate drops, if there's a lot of separate drops, it's a higher alcohol content.
Okay.
More individual like droplets, that's what it means, like higher alcohol. And then if the slower the droplets move down, the higher the sugar content.
Okay, that's the one I try to avoid now as I've gotten older.
Sugar.
And I mean, I don't know if this is
You
true,
want a
but
slow drip.
No.
No. You want a fast drip.
Okay, slow means the sugar's holding on tight.
Yeah,
or
it's kind of
something?
viscous.
Okay, but I just look now where we live, the liquor store has to show how much sugar is in a bottle of wine. And it's shocking
Oh.
sometimes. Yeah, if you look,
Yeah.
if you go to like the wine rack or the LCBO, on where the price is, it will say how many like grams per liter or something. I haven't been in a while, but I remember last time I was like, oh. And then you compare the difference between some of them and you realize there's so much sugar, which is not like that big a deal. But
It
when
is.
you see the difference
Yeah.
of some, it
No,
will
it
be
is.
like shocking to you.
And also, I'm like, I can picture a sugary wine, and I am like, the orange wine we like, I just can only imagine doesn't have much sugar because it, again, tastes like dirt and bad.
It honestly sort of tastes like a cleaner, like
Yeah.
like
So I
something
hope,
toxic.
I hope there's not sugar in that,
Yeah.
because if so, like, what are we doing? So the Gibbs Marangoni effect is like how the droplets fall. Now you can smell it. And similar to when we were in Scotland and did whiskey tasting, you smell from close and then you smell from far.
Oh, remember? Okay, for whiskey when we were there, and I don't know if this is traditional. We were in Edinburgh, and he was like, "This is how you smell your whiskey. You dump it on your hand." He would like take the cup, his hand on the cup, flip it over quickly. So you were just like putting a little on your hand, and you rubbed your hands together, and then put your hands over your nose. I'm assuming that you don't do this for wine.
You don't.
but because whiskey's probably so much stronger that it like instead of sniffing hard liquor, it was like a nice way to get the. It was actually really cool.
He used
The
a shot
aromas.
glass too.
Was it?
Like he like did a little shot glass, put it on his hand. So like I feel like the preparation of that is easier, whereas with wine glass you can't pour. Imagine
Like a wine glass
a
is so
sommelier
big.
or someone trying to be fancy and taking the wine and pouring it onto their hand, and then like. Also, I'm so mad at you because so often since then I've been like, this is what you do for whiskey. You put it on your hand, and then I've been around you and you've been like, Greg, stop.
Because
but I'm like,
it's
no, back me
aggressive.
up. But it's so annoying. Like you always go like, Greg, ew, no. And then it's like we move on from the conversation and everyone thinks that I just tried to pour whiskey on my hand. And I'm like, now here I am. I honestly was like, Mitch forgot about that. Mitch forgot.
Maybe I did until this moment.
No, it's the first thing you bring up because it is cool. Like with whiskey, it's so strong. Put it in a shot glass, dump it on your hand, rub them together.
Dump is the wrong word. Maybe I'm seeing you dump. It's kind of
No,
like,
it's not dump.
It was like you suction your hand onto it so that when you turn it over very briefly, you just get a bit on your hand.
I've never even gotten that far because when I've tried to do this, you've been like, Greg, ew, no. And then I'm like, what the fuck? Anyways, when you
No memory of that ever
when
happening.
you put it like close and far, it really, you can smell cool things from whiskey, honestly.
Okay.
Right?
So-
Don't you think?
Oh, I agreed. Yeah.
Like it was cool to dump it on your hand.
yeah.
Anyways, you don't do that. You just do it in the glass. Apparently, dill and coconut scents means it's probably American.
Why?
Because of the barrels. Yeah. And then
Whoa.
vanilla and nutmeg scents means it's more like the European based on like the material of the barrels most likely used.
I love dill.
Yeah. So I'm like, these are helping me think this is a little more objective than I had thought.
Yeah, if someone could actually deduce that just from smelling, like in a consistent way,
Some
that's
people
cool.
can.
That's
yeah,
cool.
like there's very few people pass this master sommelier test. I'm sure 80% of them are French, and I think it's a certain amount of bottles that they're knocking every time. Like I know where that's from. Like it's pretty cool. And the last thing is you slurp, inhale extra oxygen, and swirl it in your mouth. And it's called retro-nasal olfaction because you end up smelling from the back of your throat, and you've already
Into your
smelled
nose.
from the front nose part, and it gives you even more like details. But after this, at this point, I'm like, it starts to become a little bit like, okay, what are we doing here? So that's how sommeliers
And at that
have a
point,
hobby.
it's like that doesn't describe why something is objectively better or not.
Yeah, why
right?
something
it helps
might
you
cost
understand
more.
what it is.
Yeah.
like literally.
Exactly.
But then there's a whole thing around like, okay, well, why does this cost
$100
$100 and this costs $5?
yeah, so that's that. Now you can start talking about some studies because I feel like that's where it starts to fall apart.
Yeah, sure. Okay, well, the one study I found that I thought was really cool was, I think people have heard oftentimes that blind taste tests don't generally go so well for this field. But
Well, there was that it's like a mean study.
Yeah, this is not that mean study, but no, a lot of studies, like you're saying, there are probably objective studies where people can categorize different aromas. And to be fair, this is not a drag on like sommeliers or people who love this because the same happens in cooking with like high level chefs who close their eyes, get beef in their mouth and think it's chicken.
Okay, so
or
we
think
should
it's pork.
We
or
should
think-
explain this study because it's mean. The study that they did. You know the specific ones?
I don't know if it's mean, but then you're thinking of a specific one. I was just going to say a lot of times they're blind taste tests and people cannot accurately understand which is which.
So we made ASAP Science videos about this test, which is the famous one I thought you were referring to. And they had 54 wine experts and they gave them the same white wine, but they dyed one red.
That's one of them, yeah.
But I'm like, that's so mean. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm like, that's different than a blind
not
taste test. It's like,
mean.
I know. So anyways, these wine
It's trying
experts
to
could
see-
not even tell that it was the same wine. They
Even-
were
it was
influenced by
just-
the color.
Yeah.
And then also they gave them an expensive and a cheap. They said one wine was expensive, said one wine was cheap.
Yeah,
it was the same
This
wine.
is what I was going to say, but
Oh,
I don't
okay.
think this is mean.
Okay, I don't know. In my head, I was
They're not doing this study to make them look stupid. Like,
Okay.
I don't think their names were public.
I
It's
guess
not like they were like doing this public sommelier bashing. Like it was, I think it was a research paper that was like, we need people who are experts in this field, and we're actually going to test. It's like not mean. I don't think it
No,
probably
okay,
sucks
it's
for the
not mean,
sommelier, but
okay.
maybe they didn't ever know the results. It's like any scientific study, like testing if something's legitimate.
Sorry, I guess what I mean is this study has been proliferated. It's
Right.
like a pop science thing. Tons
Yes.
of people talk about this. It's a really easy way to drag.
Right.
And it was 54 participants. And I just thought, like, when I think of a blind taste test, I think of like kind of what we were just talking about, blindfolding someone, asking them details. I think it's kind of funny that they tricked them with food coloring. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like, it is.
Well, it's amazing. It makes
Yeah.
you realize all the signals that impact people's
Yeah, no, it's interesting. You're right.
decisions. Okay, so I was just gonna say like, and this is not necessarily with like professionals, but with average people too. When people taste quote unquote cheaper wine, but are told it's expensive, they often think it is good.
Yeah,
So
I would totally
this
fall for
study
that.
was trying to figure out like, has the prejudice blinded them to it being a bad taste, or does the prejudice change their brain function so that they actually taste it as good?
Okay, interesting.
Is like what they were trying to figure out. You know,
Yeah,
that makes
that's
sense,
cool.
like that distinction.
Can I guess what I think it is?
Sure, yeah.
So I think that the fact that it's expensive is going to make someone think it's better, not make the bad taste go away.
So I think I just want to make sure I'm on the same page.
Is that not
so
what you
instead of
said?
thinking it's like whether or not it's masking, we'll call it a bad taste, even though it's not necessarily a bad
Yeah.
taste. You're giving someone cheap wine, you're calling it expensive to them.
Yeah.
Are they thinking it, like, are they ignoring the bad taste? Like the prejudice or their bias is making them think it doesn't have a bad taste?
No,
or
the
is
other one.
making it actually taste good to
I
them?
think it's actually making it actually taste
like
good.
that their
That's my
brain that their
guess.
brain is like it
Yeah,
is,
like, it's
is good
good.
wine. Okay.
Yeah.
So basically they did MRI studies to just look at the differences, and they found that there were measurable differences seen in the brain when they thought it was expensive in the areas that were associated like with better taste. So you are wrong. I'm sorry, you are right.
Oh my God.
Just so used to saying that.
Oh my God.
So you are correct. And basically they said that people who were strong reward seekers or who were low in physical self-awareness
That's me.
were,
Like those
were
are.
more susceptible to having their experience shaped by prejudices.
Oh my
about
God.
the product.
I'm so okay. The first two things you said about a person is like the most direct read of me. What is it?
strong reward seekers.
Yeah.
And low in physical self-awareness.
That's like I should get that tattooed on my thigh.
that is your,
And I'm
that is your-
so influenced. I'm so influenced by what people say is good. It's a
Oh,
serious.
for sure. You like also can't see a movie if you've read that it's not good. Even
Yeah,
if like
I'm like not
millions of
wasting my
people
time.
love it.
Yeah, no,
but if
I know.
you read like reviews in a way that made it sound not so good, you're like won't even bother.
Well, or I'll go in with. There'll have to be enough good reviews to me to go in with that critique, and I can just what I think. But I'm not like if people are like this movie's bad. I'm just like I'm never gonna see that because I'm not gonna waste. I'm short amount of
But-
time on this earth. I'm not watching.
I'm trying to say
But that's crazy.
there are
That's
times like
psycho.
when something's objectively or not objectively, but when something is unanimously rated as bad, I'm not surprised that you don't want to see it. But there are
some
things
people
that
are-
I like that I know don't have like amazing reviews, but like you are not willing to go through that experience.
Wait, well, everyone loves Zelda. I just can't play video games. What
Oh,
other
I'm
ones?
not talking about that. Everyone loves Zelda.
Yeah, no, I know. That's something I
Zelda
should
gets
be.
critical
Actually,
reviews.
Zelda is the thing that I'm surprised I haven't played just because I'm obsessed with when. With the
No, it's
people say
fair. You
things
didn't
are
grow up
good.
with video games.
I
Like
can't. It's just
it
too hard.
is- let's
We've
do
been
another
through
pod
this.
on video games, actually. And I think I've said this to you at least, maybe on the pod, but I finally understood your frustration when I was playing PlayStation. Like my friend lent me his PlayStation 3 or 4, not the new one, the old one. And I've never played it growing up. And I started playing a game. I also was had an edible, but I was playing a game that had a whole new system of buttons. Like I'm so used to Nintendo's layout and the way it works that it was like so challenging to me. It was not fun. Because
Yeah,
I was
I'm
like, I'm so
yeah.
used to being able to just like play a Nintendo game and immediately already have like the dexterity for it
Yeah.
and kind of understand like in a Zelda game like how the puzzles generally work. They're still puzzles, but it's like I kind of know what I'm getting into.
Yeah,
That
you
was-
like Zelda because you're good at it.
No, it's more than just
Mitch,
being good at it, but that's part of it.
That is part of the reason because
I also
you're
am
good at
just
it.
like I love that style of like meditative game.
Sorry, but one part of the reason you love Zelda is because you're good at it. Like it must be so satisfying. You have that's what you already
Right,
you
like
just
being
said
primed
that.
for it.
You have all the like context clues to like succeed in the game. I don't have that for any video game ever.
Right. So how did
made.
we get here? Wine. Oh, we were just talking about like your low self-awareness.
Oh no, and just that I am easily influenced. People were like,
Oh,
"This
yes.
orange wine's good." I was like, "Yeah, it's good," and then I'm like, "It does taste like vomit." Like if people
But
tell me things
that's
are good,
a really
I love
cool.
them.
Like placebo is really amazing and interesting. That you can also learn to like something just by the outside factors is scary and cool at the same time.
Yeah, wait, why
or
is
that
it scary? Because I have to know that because it's me and I.
well, because it's hard to know like what am I, who am I. It's scary in kind of an
Yeah,
existential way,
existentially, yeah.
where you're like even drugs where they're like they can pretend and give people sugar pills, and sometimes it can actually
I would so be that.
heal their IBS. Or
Yeah.
like I'm not saying that this is going to happen for you, but in so many studies they're like, and then we told them it was sugar pills, and it still helped them.
Yeah, I think
So
that.
there's really
I
cool
honestly
placebo
think
things.
placebo would work on me so well. I think I should just do that.
Yeah, I don't think it's a bad thing. I more just mean it's kind of scary when you're like, wow, I wish. It's just like these things that are out of your control. This study that I was just referencing in terms of like realizing that it is actually their brain thinking it's better was ultimately summed up by relating it to marketing. And it was like, it's important for marketers to understand how their product looks, the price of it, and like all these things, how it impacts how people actually taste what you're providing them.
But what do you mean? Like, this is now used so that marketers
Their final line was
manipulate?
marketing actions can change the very biological processes underlying a purchasing decision, making the effect very powerful. Indeed.
This is for sure something that every ad agency, like, they probably start
Oh,
their
for
presentations by being like, a new poll and survey and writers has said,
But
if we get
they were
our
looking at
job
their
done
brains.
right, then people are going to buy our product.
Yeah.
But it's true. And I'm a sucker for all of that shit. And I get that. And I just need to remember that I'm so vulnerable to
But that's
to
fine, as
persuasion.
long as you're not like getting sucked into a cult or something.
Yeah, no, but I know. I'm weirdly like not worried.
I'm the one who would be getting
Yeah,
cults.
that's weird. Someone asked about like doing an episode on cults, and immediately I was like, well, Mitch is the one that I have to be worried about, but maybe I do too.
No, I'm not that worried for you.
Well, do you feel the same way?
Unless
Do you
it's a
feel
Bad
that
Bunny
you're-
cult.
Do you feel that you have don't have self-awareness? No, you have
No,
so
I
much
think I like.
self-awareness.
What were the two
Well,
things?
wait.
Self-awareness, and I can't find it.
You have physical self-awareness.
It was, and I
What's
strong
emotional
reward
self?
seeker.
What's emotional? What you said? Physical and emotional self-awareness?
No, it just said low in physical self-awareness.
Oh, just physical.
Yeah, and the other one was a strong reward seeker. Which I think I'm not like a
No.
crazy strong reward seeker,
Yeah.
but like everyone kind of is in their own
So
way.
for
But
some reason, you're ending up in the cult, though. That's interesting.
well, this is not about a cult.
No, I know, but it feels like a cult is part of it. You know,
Why?
Like being persuaded easily.
No.
Anyways. Yeah, true.
Yeah, so that I thought was interesting that you actually think it tastes better.
Well, I think that like cute wine labels. I'm
Oh,
sold.
totally.
Yeah,
Like
and then
good
I'm like,
design
this is good.
and
Yeah.
good marketing and good labeling, I think affect everyone. Maybe some people much more than others.
It affects me, and even like the country. I'm watching Sopranos. Every wine I'm buying is from Italy, and I'm going, it's from Italy. You know what I mean? And it's like, because I'm just watching Sopranos and I'm into Italian culture. Then all of a sudden I'm like, that's basic. I'm into Austria because like no one says it. Like I love to be like, it's from Austria.
Yeah,
Then
you
people
like to
go,
be
what?
alt.
Yeah, alt. And honestly, someone probably once was like, wines from Austria are good, and I was persuaded.
Yeah, the Rhine region. Oh, that's Germany. Never mind.
German wine, even I'm like, that's interesting to me too, because it feels like the wrong country. Like France and Italy.
Or what are
Quintessence,
France's-
California.
So I'll bring something about France, like not my study, but there is something called the geography bias.
Yeah.
and they've done a lot of studies on this.
Okay, that's
too.
what I'm saying. The geography bias.
So literally, because France is often, and for like so long has been considered sort of the best wines in the world. And there was like one of the biggest studies, but it's from like the 60s, I think, was basically that same kind of idea, tricking like sommeliers and making them rate the wines and them not either knowing where it was or them thinking certain ones were French. And what ended up happening is they all picked California wines. All these French sommeliers picked the California
and
wines.
that's when
as the best
culture shifted to the West
it
Coast.
literally is. They were like,
Ratatouille.
California wines were like legitimized through this research and whatever.
Whoa.
And it made French people or French
Upset.
like winemakers rethink their traditions of winemaking to be like, does everything have to remain the same? Like, obviously, California now is known as like an amazing wine region, but it was like still becoming a place that had to like prove itself.
Wait, I'm so dumb. LA's in California. Here I am being like, why was LA such a good wine city? It's like, it literally is Paris. No, but you right?
Wait, what?
You literally just described how the culture to study shifted from Paris to California, the place where I was like, I'm going to start by saying weirdly when I was in LA.
Oh,
best
no, it's
wine
not weird
ever.
at all.
I know. I'm saying that's so funny that I didn't. Wait, you thought that was normal?
Yeah.
Oh,
California is known for like having great wine.
But you knew that when you were in LA?
Yeah, I think so. You can go on so many wine tours. Like, isn't like
I never
most
thought
of
about
California?
that.
It's like
Because when you're in LA,
it's
there's
not
no
growing in LA.
That's why I'm asking. Be honest. Did you actually think that when you were in LA? I
Yeah.
feel like you never said
But I don't
it.
care about
Oh.
wine.
Oh, but you were always like, I'm in California. Of course it's good.
I didn't think of it like that because lots of the wines we were having were not necessarily from California. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't really care where the wine is from. I'm
True.
sure lots of them were, but I feel like when you go to like a hip restaurant in California or in LA, they're still being
Yeah.
like, here's this weird region in
from
Chile.
the Rhine,
Yeah.
the Rhine region,
So-
and it's a small church again. A small church.
But I did know California in general is known for like good wine or like making tons of wine.
yeah, okay.
And
So where is it now? Has there been a new study in California and they're like, everyone chose the ones from Austria?
Not necessarily, but it's the same thing. It's like if you give people all the same wine and tell them that one is from France, like they're way more likely to pick that as their favorite.
So France is still winning out. People still want
people
France.
like think French wine is like some of the best wine in the world. We talked about the other biases. Price bias and color bias are like the other two main ones.
I feel like, I feel bad. Sorry, France, but like never seen France on a bottle and thought, pay more for that.
I guess, but we just don't buy wine that often. And when I do, I am just like looking at the price.
I'm looking at the price, but know what? And I'm also looking at the region. Another one I feel really bad about whenever it says Niagara.
Oh yeah,
Why? But that's bad. No, but that's bad because it's like
No, it's
I
probably
should be
good. I
buying
think-
local sourced
True.
wine that hasn't been flown on a jet
I
plane.
do think that people. I think
Love it.
Ontario has good
Niagara
reputation
region,
for wine.
right?
Yeah,
But for some reason, I don't know why. Maybe it's because Niagara Falls.
is like
Should I do my Niagara Falls rant? Like, I'm so sad about Niagara Falls. I'm so sad about Niagara Falls because it could have been a national park that you would have hiked to those falls.
Yeah.
But it is Vegas. Somewhere along the
Yeah,
lines,
it's really
this Canadian
sad.
country that apparently has high regulation and good tax installments decided to give over the lands near Niagara Falls to become a
Vegas.
fucking shitty Las Vegas. It's so depressing. The falls are just there. Like you
Right.
don't have to do anything to get to them. One of the most beautiful natural freshwater landmarks of the world is so ugly and depressing because it's surrounded by Denny's and the keg.
Oh my god! I think like I don't disagree completely. First, though, I think that it's beautiful that it is accessible to like anyone in terms of like getting there physically. You don't have to hike. Although I understand the beauty
that's
of
true.
like
But, like, there
going
could still be,
somewhere
like,
and going on a hike and
An
then
accessible hike.
yeah, or just like
One
having
road.
trees around.
Yeah, so, like, there's one
what
road and
would
a
the
parking lot that's
natural
nearby.
world look like around?
I'm talking
here?
about a provincial park. You know what I mean? Parking lots are allowed.
Okay. But what was I going to say? No, it's still a natural wonder. It's still beautiful, but I know what you mean. It'd be nice if just the area around it was protected.
Yeah. So that anger that I have deep in me is why when I see Niagara wines, I'm like, nah,
Triggered.
I can't. Niagara's makes me so upset. But I'm going to start doing more because it's local.
Great.
And so what are the valuable countries for you? 'Cause
Honestly,
I do look at them.
no, I don't think the country matters that much to me. I think the type of wine probably trumps, and I don't know enough about it, but like when I was younger, at some point in my head, I realized I like Cabernet Sauvignon. I think it's because it has more sugar, honestly.
Oh, God. What is that? I don't know what any of that shit means.
Oh, it's just like I had tried a handful of reds. Maybe I was doing a wine tasting and was like, I liked that one. And who knows if it was just like the coincidence that Cabernet Sauvignon was better than the other wines. But I've known I like that. Then when we got into like orange wine, I was like, I can tell the ones I like. I don't know what it is about them. They're often unfiltered. They often have like a
Skin
funky-
contact.
Yeah. But sometimes orange wine you get and you're like, this just tastes like
Yeah.
bad white wine.
Yeah, I totally.
So then
And I
it's like,
sometimes don't know if I'm just in a bad mood or if I've been told it's bad because I'm so influenced.
So in that way, like if I'm at a restaurant, I'll usually just and
Say
if I
orange
really
wine.
want wine, I would just ask for a recommendation for something that's kind of like different, something that's just not going to taste like a regular glass of wine that I could mistake for anything else.
Yeah. Do you ever say, I got the Cab Sauv? You know how sometimes people say things like that?
I don't have it in me to say that.
Sometimes people order wine like in short forms and I'm like looking at my menu like, what the fuck? Like,
I
where was that on the menu?
Still, it's like I order wine like I'm in a foreign country and I just point to it. I'm like, I refuse to say this out loud because it's not, I'm going to sound like an idiot. So I'll just go, this one.
Yeah.
The ka.
And usually it's like the one that's like by the glass, not the cheapest.
Oh,
the
yeah.
one up from the cheapest.
I'm
'cause I
never
have
buying the
glass.
bottle.
Oh yeah, I actually don't think
Because
we've
that's
ever
where
bought
you're
a
like,
bottle.
maybe we have at some point. That's when it's the scariest. That's when they
Yeah,
make you
that's
taste
when the
it for
stakes are
sure.
high, yeah.
Because they're actually like, we're going to give you the whole bottle. Like, you have to test it, and that's too scary. But it's also so expensive.
I dare you as like a therapy like life challenge that's so intense. I dare you to order a bottle of wine and say no to it and choose another one.
Oh, never. I actually
like how much money would you have to pay to
enough
do
that I could pay them for it. I'd be like, I'll pay for it, but I'm not having it.
Oh wow.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I would only be able to like be like, honestly, I really don't like it. I'm totally
That's
okay
such a flex.
to pay for it.
Oh my god. Okay, so Mitch, you go like this. You go. You're like, oh honey, what's your name? Oh, Carl. Carl, take this bottle out back with you. It's on me. I bought the bottle, Carl. This one's for you, and the other waiters as friends. You can drink it, but I just can't drink this. Give me the other one. So you buy the bottle for the waiter, then you order the second one. That would be like,
I would feel way
class.
less bad about that.
Yeah.
It's still like kind of douchey in a way, but
So douchey. It's so douchey.
but I
Never
would
do
feel
that.
that's the only way I could go through with that, because
Yeah.
it's the same thing as like I've never returned a meal. Honestly don't think I have ever said there's something wrong with this, even if there was.
Yeah.
And I'm not always judging people who do it. I have a lot of respect for people. Like I have friends who work in the service industry and have a really good way of like dealing with it, to just be like really polite and just be like, can you cook this a little longer? But I have been with some people who have returned meals after eating half of them, or been like, I'm not paying for this. It was not good.
Yeah.
I'm just like,
don't have
that
that.
is mortifying.
It's
I do not
mortifying.
have that. And it feels the same as returning wine to me, because it's like, especially if they just opened a bottle.
Yeah. So just drink it, because honestly, you're so easily influenced. Know what you do? Just be like, tell me this is from France and really expensive. Tell me
we
it's the
gotta
best wine
use the
ever, and
placebo
then
to our
I'll love
advantage.
it. Yeah.
Just say it's expensive.
Well, I know I keep talking about a little church, like
A what?
because like I have just at certain points of the podcast been like, this wine's from a little church, or like brewed and like stored in a little church. Because once we got a beer at a fancy restaurant that was
from a little
so
church.
expensive. And do you remember? He was like, this is from a little church, literally in Germany. And the bottle had a little photo of a church. And we spent like $30 on a little bottle of beer. It was like a weird moment where we're like, let's have that crazy beer, the one that's crazy expensive. And he gave this whole spiel. He's like, it was a little church. They only make like 3 barrels a year or whatever. And then I was like, this is the best
I'm
beer
into
I've
that.
ever had.
I
was
am
like,
into that.
but it
You're
was
right.
a story.
Give me
It
a
was
story.
Like
I need a
that
story
made me think
to
it
be
was
sold on
rare
it.
and
Yeah.
like, but it tasted probably like tar.
There was a time when that became popular with menus too. Like I feel like menus used to just be like burger, cheese, lettuce, tomato, and now it's like fresh, juicy tomato picked from the garden this morning.
Or they use adjectives that are like almost not even English.
Yeah, they're not usually related to food.
Yeah, it's like it'll like this is people know this. It'd be like a confit grape or something like those types of words, like French words.
Yeah. They
Where
just put in words that are not English,
and then you're just like,
"Ooh,
whoa,
that's
okay.
good." And I feel like they do that with wine too. I feel like when people describe how wine tastes, it is, and it's always like, truly, do you get the aromas of like peach and burnt
And I'm just like, yeah,
honey? And you're
but
like,
I don't know. Yeah.
always pretending. I don't have the heart in me ever to contradict almost anyone in any setting where I'm not actually having a debate.
Okay, the one time we had a really funny wine tasting, like we're wrapping up soon, but I remember was like probably one of the few times we ever went wine tasting to a place I also really don't like, Prince Edward County. Wow, I'm just dragging places I don't know why I
Nearby
keep
in Canada.
but Prince Edward County is
Ontario.
also, I think, a wine place.
You know what? The problem is that wine country, so to speak, which is I don't know why it's called
it just
that.
feels colonial and like
It feels
bad.
pretentious.
Yeah.
Right? And it can
I went
be-
really dark with mine, but mine they feel bad. Like I don't know why I think of them as like
well, there's
racist.
also like a major issue with like immigrant workers being exploited and stuff in a
Oh,
lot
yeah.
of these
That's
situations that
definitely
we've
why.
like had
I read
to.
that in the Walrus. or
Yeah,
whatever.
so it's literally like an actual problem.
Yeah, that's true.
So that, but I also think just as like a hobby, it is like a quote unquote upper class, kind of
Yeah.
like pretentious. It can be. Obviously,
Yeah.
lots of people nowadays, it's a lot more like common to be
Yeah.
interested in like liquors and beers.
But it's
and
part of why I
wines.
didn't like Prince Edward County was because I was affiliating it with this like upper class wine culture, which does kind of permeate when you're there. Anyways, we're at Prince Edward County having a wine tasting, and they had this like process just outside where we were, because we had to sit on this like deck because there was a bunch of us, of the winemaking process where you actually have to like open the fermentation tanks and like allow the gas to leave before you like compress the grapes. And they were like, so sorry, we're at this stage in what we're doing, so it's going to, like, it'll smell a bit. It was rancid. It was literally
It also-
fart.
it smelled
was
like poo.
It smelled like turd fart that was like
While
in
we were doing
vinegar.
our wine tasting.
And then while they're like, okay, so this first one's from right here. Now take a big whiff, and we were all like, sniffing in and being like, I want to vomit because this wine, I can't even smell the wine because we're smelling actual ass. That was hilarious. And like every wine, the person would walk back in to get the next one. We'd be to each other like, I don't know, I can't stop tasting like the ass. Like it's like it infects you. And we're like, I didn't smell any peach. I only smelled like ass. The peach emoji.
Yeah, that was not a good experience.
It was funny though. Like I will never forget it because it was like
Especially
ironic.
to be there in this place that's like kind of, what do you say, like fancy.
And it smelled like turds. Okay. So
on that note,
it's subjective.
oh, true. But like, I think
That's the
wrapping it back up to like how there are sommeliers and there are super tasters and there's chefs who get things wrong. I do think like it's still interesting while it can be pretentious, but if you do it in a way that's just like interesting hobby, I think that's cool.
Yeah.
To just be into something and be able to like challenge your taste buds
Also,
to categorize things in a
People,
way.
I think, are aware of the processes and are aware of like wines that are actually from like sustainable farms and like large batch wines are probably more processed and have like more blood on their hands from labor. And like, I think there's other reasons why things might cost more money that don't have to do with the science of taste.
Right.
That I think are also interesting. I think a lot of like, I'm sure sommeliers are like, you know, that work at restaurants that are trying to like be delicious and not
like,
ruin the world
yeah.
are like working with like places that are more sustainable and stuff like that. But again, that has nothing to do with what we were talking about, which is taste. Okay.
Nice to
I'm going to have
chat.
some wine.
Are you?
Maybe.
Do we have some here?
Yeah, well, we have cider. Does that count? Oh, stay tuned for our app on cider. Okay.
Okay. Bye.